You need at least 10,000 followers on Instagram before you can call yourself a pro. Photography has to be your main source of income. Never shoot JPEG. You are either a black and white photographer or a color photographer, but you cannot be both. I'm currently on holiday with the fam, so this video is not from the studio, but from the great Dutch outdoors. And over the years I've heard a lot of people give some terrible advice when it comes to photography. And in this video I want to pick the 3 baddest pieces of advice I was ever given, so we can talk about it, so we can learn from it, and so we can laugh about it. So let's have some fun. So, bad advice number 1. You should only use natural light. Flash photography is only for people who can't get the right results using daylight. In my experience, people who never use flash do so either because they are intimidated by it or because they look down on it, or maybe a little bit of both. When I started using flash within my photography, I started to understand light better. Even though you might not like the end result of the photos in which flash are used, I think there are a lot of valuable lessons in learning how to use flash within your photography. And if you have all that knowledge in your pocket and after that you choose only to shoot in daylight, of course that's fine. But I think learning to use flash as part of learning photography, I think that's a very valuable knowledge to have. Even if at the end of the day you still only choose to use daylight for your photography, I think knowing and understanding flash and how to expose your photos using flash, I think that's very valuable. And people who say that flash photography is only for dummies and people who don't really understand how to use natural light, well, I think they're full of shit. The next piece of advice might be a little bit controversial or up for interpretation. And if you feel like I'm hitting the plank mis, that's a Dutch word of saying I got it by the verkeerde eind. You know, if you think I'm just plain wrong, feel free to drop your reaction in the comments and let's spark the conversation. Bad advice number 2. Editing your photos. The rules of editing your photos. Some photographers have told me that the only goal of editing your photos is to correct the things you and your camera have done wrong. So that means fix the saturation, fix the blacks, fix the whites, maybe a little bit of color correction, and that's that. Nothing more, nothing less. Just minor tweaks when it comes to editing your photos. Other photographers have told me that the edit is where the magic happens. You, my friend, are a chef de la cuisine. The photo you took, that's the market where you have bought all the ingredients. And the editing software, that's the kitchen where you get to mix and match, stir it up, add some spices, extra flavor, maybe a little bit of hot sauce or ketchup, and boil that hot pot until you are happy with the dish that is your photo. And now you probably want me to tell you which one of these advices is the correct one, or where on the spectrum when it comes to editing your photos you should be. And that's where I have to disappoint you, because I will not tell you what you should or shouldn't do. However, I do have 2 things to say about this. Don't really know why I threw my head away there. The first thing is that you should never let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do within your own creative explorations. You can edit your photos any way you want. If you don't want to edit them at all, or if you want to mix and match like a chef in the kitchen, it's like Nike said, just do it. And the second thing is, always be honest about what you have done to your photos. A street photography etiquette is that we don't alter the images. Of course you can convert them to black and white, play with the saturation and the contrast, do some minor edits like that, but we never edit or alter our images. With the new generative fill features in Photoshop, you can delete traffic lights or signs, you can edit in new things just with a click of a button. And if you do choose to go crazy and edit your photos, copy in new things and change out the entire street or throw in some different clouds, by all means just do so, but stay honest about it. I'm trying to think of a new creative transition to go from this shot to the next shot, but oh wait, maybe this one. Yep, there you go. Bad advice number 3. Invest your money in a nice, big, extensive photography kit. That means 2 bodies, at least 3 lenses with constant apertures of either f2.8 or f4 that cover the range of somewhere around 24 to 200 millimeters, some extra batteries, extra SD cards, maybe a prime or 2. If you start with photography, you should start good. And this, at least for me when I started out, was terrible advice. There are so many variables, so many things to think about when you are starting with photography. How's your composition? What settings do my camera have? Is the exposure correct? Is my photo at least in focus? There are so many things to think about that you don't really need the extra distraction of having several bodies and several lenses. It's very much okay to just focus on one thing at a time. And of course, a professional wedding photographer could use 2 bodies and several lenses. And of course, it's nice to explore the different characteristics of different lenses and to really understand and using different focal ranges. But when you are starting out, just focus on one thing at a time. If I were to start with photography right now, I would buy a second-hand body from a couple of years old and just one 35mm prime lens. And if you are starting out and you want to spend some more money just because it's fun to spend a lot of money on photography, then buy a new nice camera body and just one 35mm f1.4 lens. From any brand. I guarantee you, with one camera body and one prime lens, you can do 99% of all the photography you need to be doing within the first couple of years of your photography journey. Unless of course you are shooting sports, then you need a different lens. Or if you are shooting portraits, then you probably want something like an 85mm prime. And for landscape and astrophotography, maybe you want wider. Okay, maybe I'm just talking shit, but you do understand the point, right? You don't need to over-invest just to start with photography. Snap je? There are a lot of people that like talking about photography that don't really understand that much about photography. And we should really be careful who we take advice from. Don't buy everything you hear from these random hobby photographers, especially when they have a YouTube channel. Wait, should I say that? Anyway, if you don't want to spend too much money on your newest piece of kit and you want that nice vintage look, consider buying an older camera and check out this video right here. Peace! Peace.